So this is an example of how I use videos for tutorial purposes. We normally talk about supply and demand quite a bit in this particular class, so I am just using this as an example to introduce you my video tutorials. Recently crude oil price has collapsed quite a bit. It used to be about $120 a barrel. Now it is about $50 a barrel. And what is the reason for that? We can explore that by using supply and demand curves. We will talk a lot about this later on in the class, but this is just to give you an example of the tutorial. So we have a price axis here, and we have a x-axis which is called quantity. And the price versus quantity relationship is something that we talk about in this class a lot. So let's just talk about the demand aspect of the consumers. Consumers demand when the price is high, let's say about $200, they would like only this much quantity. But as you drop the price, they would love more quantity. So that relationship is, as the price drops, they want more and more and more. We call this a demand curve. Whereas the suppliers don't like to supply more when the price is too low. If the price is too low, they would like to just supply only this much. When the price is pretty high, say $200, they will say, I supply everything you want. So the supply curve in general sort of goes like that. We call that a supply curve. And this is all about crude prices. That's what we're talking about. So there's a title called crude oil price. There's an x-axis which is prices. There's the x-axis is quantity and the y-axis is prices. And when supply and demand is this fashion, the market sort of stabilizes around here. So it sells for about, say, $110, and it sells a quantity of 7 million barrels. But lately what happened is consumers are wanting less and less crude oil or gasoline because the economy is not doing so good, so they want less. So the demand curve has sort of declined. When it used to be demand curve 1, now it is demand curve 2. What happened to the supply curve? Supply curve also has increased. Saudi Arabia is now supplying, even at $50 instead of supplying this much, they're willing to supply a whole lot more. So they're sort of shifted to the right side. So the supply curve now is, instead of being S1, it is S2. So now the market is sort of clears about here. So in this particular case, the market is selling at a price of, say, $55, but it's selling less quantity, of course, maybe 6 million barrels. So the new market equilibrium would be $55 and 6 million barrels of crude oil, as opposed to what it used to be here. So this is an introduction of how my tutorial will work, but we will talk about this a lot more later on.